Hello and welcome to Under the Covers. I am your host, Nick. This is your host, Jett. And every episode, one of us chooses a song to cover. We discuss that song before covering it with guitar and vocals at the end. For bonus features such as reaction videos, blooper reels, and extra episodes, please visit us on Patreon at UTC Music Podcast. Hello.
Hi.
Hi. This is an exciting episode for me because it's not that I've never heard of this band, but I could not possibly tell you a single song by them.
So you have heard of them before?
Yeah, I heard of them.
Okay.
But that's pretty much the extent of
that's
it.
That's it.
And I got to learn stuff. I feel like I'm going to learn stuff in this interview right now that I didn't know. But I'm excited because you chose this song. Why don't we start with what made you choose this one?
I guess because we hadn't come up with anything. And
I was hoping you weren't going to say, I thought this one would be easy because
No.
we were out of time.
Well, kind of. I mean, it's got a pretty easy guitar riff in the interest of time. I had been listening to a playlist that I put together on Spotify a long time ago. And it was just called, The Girls. And it's a lot of, female fronted solo artists and bands that I absolutely love and I'd forgotten about. And so I was like re-listening and I was like, oh man, I still want to do this song and this song and this song and this song. So yeah, I was like, well, let me just go through this catalog real quick. And I was like, oh, okay, definitely this album. And they're very electronica, trip hoppy. So I was like,
That's not what I got from this, but from
yeah,
this particular song that you said, I was like, really?
Well, and I think this was one of their first releases. So
Yes. In my limited amount of Wikipedia research says that
right.
is correct.
So it was like 94 and it's got a very radio friendly feel to it and a very like ABC
Arrangement.
thank you.
Yeah.
There it is. Yay!
You are welcome. You're totally right. Not to just jump in on this, but when I first heard it, as soon as I heard the drums, I thought this is definitely mid-90s. Immediately.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Not in a bad way.
No.
It's just in a fun, I remember people using this style of beat, this kind of groove, that kind of sound, like everything about the drum section, which is such a major part of the song, immediately was like, yep, this is a 90s track.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
And I don't know why, but it doesn't sound like this song, but it reminded me of Tom's Diner for some reason. I don't know why. Maybe just sort of like a similar,
Okay.
like a similar vibe or a similar sound, but
Sure.
it doesn't sound anything like that song.
Right.
But immediately it kind of took me to that place of, oh yeah, there is this run of sort of not quite hip hoppy, but definitely sort of like a top Billboard kind of thing that just worked and it just sounded so good.
Yeah. Well, it's the quintessential trip hop beat and it's resonant.
Yeah.
Through from the late 80s to probably the end of the 90s, really.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just, everyone piggybacked on it. It was in every remix, every drum and bass. It was so good. It was such a good, that's a reason.
So immediately recognizable.
Yeah. Because it's so good.
It is good.
I love it. I love it to this day.
As much as I didn't know who these people were, when you sent this song and said, I want to do this, I listened to it. As soon as I heard it, I was like, yeah, I'm great with this. Yeah, for sure.
Yes. See.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, this song was probably the most agreeable to do. And it was.
It was. We kind of, I wouldn't say lucked out, but it feels like, not that we don't do this, but it feels like we both did our homework way ahead of time because we only had a limited amount of time to get this done. And we came in, we took one take. We're like, that was pretty good. Let's just do another one for safety. The second one was even better. And we're like, that's it. We're done.
Yeah.
So we got this on the second take.
Yeah. Well, third.
Well, I mean, yeah, we had kind of like a half start in the second one, but That didn't even count.
Yeah.
Two full takes, and the first one was already like 90% there.
Yeah.
And we were both really happy with this one.
Well, in homework, I've been doing this homework since '94.
Let's talk about. But while we were getting prepared, you came over. We went upstairs. We're like, all right, let's rehearse this. Start playing it. I start playing along. Here's what I had in mind for the guitar. And immediately I just sensed this, like, that's not going to work.
No. Yes, but and.
And.
Yes, but and.
Well, yeah, yes, I want you to walk us through the rest of, like, because my, like, playing, I'm like, hey, what do you think of this? And I'm watching him like, I don't think she likes this at all.
I was like, is that all?
No.
Because it's awesome, but I don't know if it's going to carry us through the whole song.
You're right.
Yeah.
You're 100% right.
And the reason I chose the song is because there was already guitar in there, like a good strum kind of and I was like, so this will be easy. He didn't do any of that. I was like, hey, that's why I picked this song.
You're like, hey, what happened to the guitar part of this song? Meanwhile, I'm like, yeah, but if I put on like 6 more effects, I could cover that right away.
And what you did, and wow, I mean, what he put together was amazing. Like, to fill in the spaces where the guitar isn't. But I was like, so can we do the strummy thing too? On the choruses? And he was like, yeah. So we sat down real quick and...
Well, hang on. I said, yeah, but I eventually said that. At first, you're like, hey, could you do like strumming guitar parts? And I was like, oh, sheer panic.
Like, cold sweat.
Oh my God, I have to learn this. And in the next 10 minutes, I got to figure out a part that's going to fit this song and not stray away from it and get it back to where you need it to be and then learn it and then be able to play it and record it. And this, I was like, oh my God, this is my worst nightmare.
This literally came together in 10 minutes.
It really did. But we got there, and we got there pretty quickly.
Panic at the Disco.
Yeah, I was a little like, oh my God, like, how am I going to do this? Oh.
It's okay.
It's okay. But you were totally right. What I had in mind, I think, was like, hey, that's a neat part, but for 3.5 minutes in a row, just not so neat.
But it really did tie
change
it
together.
It up, dude. I didn't say it like that.
No, I know, but I catch myself saying that to myself.
Yeah.
Even in our own, like, writing, like, our original stuff, I try to think of, like, don't sit on the same thing for too long, which has been a bad habit of mine. So I'm trying to get out of that. So you suggesting, like, hey, try this other thing was one of the reasons why I was receptive. Like, okay, I need to try something else. Yes. And you were right.
Thanks.
You were right.
Yay. He got a big hug afterwards.
He did. Yep. And drinks. Yum.
What are the...
Yum.
Yeah.
Oh, Amaro, you sweet mistress.
Yeah, if you don't know about Amaro, Lord, not many people do.
No.
Like, quick sidebar.
I can't tell you how many bars I've been to where I'm like, hey, do you have Amaro? And they're like, do you mean Amaretto? I'm like, no, I don't mean that.
I've gotten that a lot.
Yeah.
Remember that one down in Venice, that one place we went to?
No.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Yes, you do remember. I assure you, I do not.
We went with Amy.
What?
We went with Amy, your cousin.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, yeah.
And I was like, do they have Amaro? And she brought me this
Grappe or whatever it's called.
Grapple.
Yeah.
No, not grapple. Grappa.
Yes.
Grapple's a type of snow. That's not it.
No.
Grappa.
Yeah.
No.
And I was like, oh, is this whiskey? I think I asked for Amaro, and she was like, that's what our Amaro tastes like. I'm like,
I could have blown fire.
No, it's not. This is not what your Amaro tastes like.
Like 3 times. And I finally went to the bar and I was like, so this is not Amaro. Do you have Amaro? She's like, oh yeah. She's like, she didn't say that's what it was.
So,
I was like,
something got lost in translation.
She
somewhere.
did finally have an Amaro, and I was like, that's what I'm looking for.
Yeah, that was really good.
Good Christ.
Yeah, that we enjoyed. Yeah. For the first thing was like,
okay.
Whew.
So skirt.
Yeah. Anyway.
Anywho.
So back to this. Tell me about some of the lyrical content, because in our sort of rush to get this together, you know me and lyrics just go right past me. So I pick out like a couple lines here and there. They're not important?
No, not in this. Like when you're trying to get stuff together and you just need to work out the
I'm like,
music.
no, you focus on music.
Yeah.
Like, There's a whole interview that you can talk about lyrics. So here we are.
I think it goes through, I mean, my interpretation, it's all art, so it sounds like she's talking about kind of trendy, stereotypical people that think they're a little bit more than they are, or they try to be too much. Well, same thing, but that kind of thing. Disingenuine.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah, disingenuine people.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a couple lines that I really enjoy because I can catch myself doing that too. Like, you just accidentally get involved talking to somebody and you're just looking for the next segue out of this conversation.
Oh, just because we're talking?
Yeah. I
felt that.
Yeah.
Like, those were one of the lines that I picked out, and I was like, let's see where she likes this.
Yeah. So it could be a little either way, actually. But the history of this band is very interesting.
So you want to dip in the history a little bit?
Sure. So
are you going to include how they got their name?
You can do that. Yeah.
Well, you start with the history.
Okay.
Okay.
So Kelly Alley accidentally kind of became the front person, front woman for the band. It was originally just two guys. And I think, so it was like their producer, like they started together. Their producer was like, great sound, cool vibe, vocals I'm not feeling. We need a female. And they were like, oh, okay. So there was this Kelly Alley, and she was singing with another group at the time called the Lumières. Lumières, something like that. But this is back in the 90s. Then she came and sang with them. They got their top hit, and they toured for a couple years. And then one of the founders of the band, Chris, was like, "We don't need you anymore."
I read that she had left. I was like, "Really? That's interesting."
Cold. Like you don't fit this anymore. Like, we're gonna do this. And
hey, now that we're successful, beat it.
Right? I was like, ouch. Ouch. And then they kind of floundered for the next few years. Like so that was 94, toured for a couple years. So 96 to 2009.
Yeah, they didn't really do much.
No, the label dropped them because they were like, that's not the sound we're looking for, bro. What did we tell you? So they just kind of, they still put out albums, and great albums. Like, actually, my sister and I listened to these guys hardcore, like, for a while. Like, we tore up the first album, hit the dance floor with one of the remixes of, actually, I think a couple of their songs became remixes, like club remixes. And
they sound like they're pretty remix friendly, kind of. There's a lot of source material to draw from there.
Oh yeah. I mean, trip hop is a very easy segue into electronica. It's like, duh. But it's a no-brainer for sure. But that was like there, like 2 or 3 remixes came from the first album. Like, and I feel like sometimes it's like that with bands. You have your single that came, or maybe like 3 or 4 singles from your first album that are just total hits, and everyone loves them. And then you make your second one, and it's like, third one, maybe not all the time, but I think from like a Billboard perspective, it's not.
There definitely is a thing as the Sophomore Curse of like breakout bands that have a smash hit first album.
Yeah.
To follow that up is kind of dicey.
It's hard to follow your own like success.
Yeah, for sure. I think that was something that really plagued Axl Rose for a long time. Like, I remember watching interviews with him after Appetite for Destruction, but before Use Your Illusion came out, and everybody was like, okay, well, what's next? Because it's the biggest band in the world. And he was like, I just want to make something that Barry's appetite. I never want to have to like live up to that. What? He seemed real angry at the time. Yeah, pretty crazy.
Well, Metallica too. I mean, they've had, but well, like there was like a couple 3 albums that weren't that great.
But that's much later in their catalog.
Yeah,
much later.
Yeah, and I think that's like par for the course as artists. People, people grow and change in life experiences.
Mm-hmm.
Like. Sorry that Your Misery was such a smash hit, but well, can you be miserable again?
It's funny because I have this kind of theory about stuff like that, and I feel like there are more film examples than anything else, but when someone comes out with something that's really phenomenal and just kind of takes over, they become big and everyone wants to know what's the next thing to come from you creatively. And I feel like that's where they graduate to take the training wheels off and have a little bit more of their own influence and control. Because when you first get started, whether it's a first album or a first movie or whatever, you're still really subject to the influence and direction of producers and labels and studios. And they guide you because they know the formula. They know what works. Like they probably know what works better than you do. It's pretty rare that first time out of the gate, it's all your own vision and it's amazing. That usually gets guardrailed a little bit. And then once they sort of have that success and they're like, okay, well, we'll take those guardrails off. You do you. Now it gets a little wonky and crazy. I felt that way about, I'm sorry to say this, the Matrix movies. First one's incredible.
100%.
And it's very much a studio movie. And once they kind of got their own leeway to like, hey, go crazy. Like, okay, well, we'll do like a 10-minute rave scene. Why? Like,
no one needed that.
Yeah, it's not necessary. Or like, even Star Wars, Lucas is like, does like the original series. Like, okay, George, do whatever you want. He's like, okay. And then he just makes these movies that are like, what are we watching? None of this is, and sometimes I feel like bands are the same way. Like they'll put out a first album that's very much like, supervised by the studio. Then they're like, okay, your second album, you can do more of what you want. And then they just write these like real wandering, sort of like aimless. They're not focused. They're not like quite dialed into even their own sound. They're just sort of all over the place because they're getting all these things out that they couldn't do before.
Right, yeah.
I feel like that's really a thing. And so the sophomore curse, like, it's really much more rare than common that people succeed with their second album. Like, I'm trying to think to myself, like, I can only maybe think of like 1 or 2 bands that like first album, smash hit, second album, even bigger. It almost never happens.
Yeah. Yeah.
Certainly Guns N' Roses got away with it by putting out a double album that was number 1 and number 2 on the charts like first week.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
that's not very common.
No, and like these guys, I mean, same kind of thing. Great first album and floundered.
I think the moral of the story here is it's okay to conform. It's fine.
Wow. Well, and it's funny because so the 2 founders, Chris and Liam, I think.
Okay.
This has been their baby, right? And so to follow a producer's advice and get a female in, and now you have a top selling album, and then they get rid of her, and just struggling. But this has been his pet project for since the beginning. So I kind of feel like he was like, can I just do my thing? Can I just?
Yeah, probably.
Right? And so he took over vocals, and that's what they're, SP3 and 4, and there were a few others in there. Like, my sister really loved them after Kelly was gone. I stopped listening to them.
Did you brought up an interesting point. Did you know that all those members are multi-instrumental and they're just on the road? Okay, they kind of like settle into something, right. But like in the studio, whoever kind of like fit that role the best, they just jump in there.
Yeah, bass and drums. They
totally crazy.
Yeah, they were just hired on.
Wow.
So yeah.
That's nuts.
Yeah,
I've
they were
never
very,
seen
very
anything like
talented.
that.
Very, very talented. I mean, they designed that whole sound.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Kelly was the vocal, but I didn't like the interwebs didn't say, or maybe I didn't dig too deep enough, whether or not Kelly wrote any of the lyrics herself.
That I didn't really look at.
Yeah, I'm not sure if she did or not, but
But
she might have had at least some contribution if she had her own band before.
yeah,
So
probably.
yeah, but I mean, this has been Chris's vision for a long time.
How'd they come up with their name?
Go.
You go. Do you know?
No, you go.
Do you know
Yeah,
it?
I do, but you go.
Well, no. Like, if you know it, this is you chose this, so I want you to be able to,
Well, I
to
think
tell
it
us.
has something to do with the Beastie Boys.
It does.
Okay, yeah.
It definitely does. Go ahead.
No.
Okay.
You do it!
I guess they lifted this. The Beastie Boys used to put out like their own kind of magazine, like fanzine, and this was a phrase that they used in the magazine talking about shoes, and they're like, "That's our name."
Sneaker pimps.
Yep. So inadvertently, Beastie Boys were responsible for naming this band.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
Love it.
To me, like, knowing your love of the Beastie Boys was like, that's probably not
right. There's so many different versions of that story, though.
Oh, really?
And so I hadn't read the actual, so I didn't want to get it wrong. So I was like, you sound like you know better than I do, so you go.
That's the only version I read. If there are other versions of, like, actually, like, this happened, like, I have no idea.
Yeah. But anyway.
I think we pretty much established that the things we bring up on the show, probably true, not necessarily always true. It's just, we are...
Always fact check.
Yes. Do your own research. I mean, that happened with, a story that I told, and then we checked back with the band, and they're like, that never happened.
Oops.
Like, well, that's cool. Still a fun story.
It's the best part about it, though. But yeah, I mean, So I guess they have a new album. Oh, I don't know.
Newer, probably within the last 4 or 5 years. Yeah.
But I think I saw 2024.
Okay, cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so good for him.
Yeah.
But also, there's another female singer.
Oh, yes. Yep, I did see that.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
Someone named Simone
mm-hmm.
or something like that. Yeah. Yeah. I'm like, bro.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure what's wrong with your vocal formula, but...
It feels like after like 15, 20 years, you're like, yeah, maybe we should kind of, yeah, maybe that was a good idea.
Yeah. I think the thing was like, we don't want to sound like too trendy, like we're just, the female vocal as a front person, because it wasn't, their original vision, which I get, that's fine. But man, she did y'all right. Like,
mm-hmm.
Kelly was awesome. I haven't heard the new one with Simone, but okay.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, my sister really liked them post Kelly,
mm-hmm.
so I think that's cool.
No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding.
No, he's got a great voice. He really does.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't know why they fell off. I don't know why they haven't been picked up. But who needs to be picked up anymore by a label? Really, honestly, we do this shit DIY anymore. Mm-hmm. Nobody needs a label. Mm-hmm. Welcome.
Well, I know we've given a lot of hints as to who this is, but they're probably obscure enough that most people don't know who we're talking about. So, would you like to reveal the artist and song that you chose?
Yes. So it's the Sneaker Pimps, and the song we did was 6 Underground. Kee.
Take me down, 6 underground, the ground beneath your feet, laid out low, nothing to go, nowhere a way to meet. I've got a head full of drought down here, so far from losing out. Round here, overground. Watch this space, I'm open to falling from grace. Calm me down, bring it round to way high up your street. I can see like nothing else in me. You're better than I wanna be. Don't think 'cause I understand I care. Don't think 'cause I'm talking with friends overground. Watch this space, I'm open to falling from grace. Talk me down, safe and sound, too strung up to sleep. Wear me out, scream and shout, swear my time's never cheap. I fake my life like I've lived too much. I'll take whatever you're giving, not enough. Overground, watch this space, I'm open. I fake my life like I've lived too much. I'll take whatever you're giving, not enough. Overground, watch this space, I'm open to falling from grace.
Thank you so much for watching this episode of Under the Covers. Please like, share, and subscribe. You can also follow us on Instagram and Facebook at UTC Music Podcast. We launch new episodes on the 1st and 15th of every month. And if you're new to the show, thank you so much for showing up and watching. For additional features like extra episodes, reaction videos, blooper reels, because we're really good at that, you can sign up for Patreon, and that's also Patreon UTC Music Podcast. So thanks for watching, and please come back.